These aren't people. These are animals.
What does it mean to be American? It does not surely mean to be white and fair-skinned. Neither does it encompass the richest of the rich or just the poorest of the poor. What being an American means is to welcome those from the furthest reaches of the globe, to provide a welcoming and open environment in which all can thrive. That, at least, is America's national characteristic in theory, to be a diverse den of freedom. The reality and truth is far more devastating. The first immigrants to the continent of America were peoples who migrated across Beringia, a former land bridge that connected Asia and the Americas. These Native Americans would then be displaced and wantonly slaughtered by the disease and brutal methods of European migrants. These Europeans would also bring subjugated African slaves to replace the Native Americans who had succumbed and to build up a labor force. In this manner, the Americas immediately became a place of diversity and a mix of different cultures and peoples, although the mixture was not usually a cordial one. Natives fought with the white settlers in skirmishes, and soon they began to lose vast tracts of land of their original land as the white population exploded and wave after wave were emptied from the guts of Europe. As the whites spread, they used both superior numbers and firepower to force the Native Americans out of the desired lands and further drive blacks under the lash. With the advent of the Civil War and the eventual freedom of African Americans, America took a big step towards achieving its goal of inclusive diversity, yet it failed to give much rights to the newly free blacks. Blacks remained slaves in all but name in the South and were called sharecroppers instead of slaves. America truly did not begin its stride towards freedom for all until the 1960s with the insight of the Southerner Lyndon Baines Johnson. Although Johnson may be derided today for his involvement in the Vietnam War, he did much to forgotten Americans and in their aid to help him. He said, "We have talked long enough in this country about equal rights. We have talked for 100 years or more. It is time now to write the next chapter, to write it in the books of law." His predecessor, John F. Kennedy, had been overly cautious in his approach until the vicious attacks by Public Safety Commissioner of Birmingham, Alabama, Eugene Bull Connor, who unleashed attack dogs and fire hoses on innocent protesters. Shortly following this atrocity, Medgar Evers, an activist for African Americans, was brutally assassinated in his own driveway. Something had to be done. Perhaps the most remarkable feat in American political history was the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
There's warm applause from members of both parties as the president sets to work. It is work. He uses nearly 100 pens to affix his signature and date. Souvenirs go to Republican leader Everett Dirksen and Democratic whip Hubert Humphrey. The president seems to have mastered the art of just touching each pen to the paper. Integration leader Martin Luther King receives his pen, a gift he said he would cherish. The Department of Justice will enforce the law if necessary, and G-Man Chief J. Edgar Hoover is present. Another group of pens is reserved for the Kennedys, and the Attorney General is entrusted with a half dozen. Now, in this summer of 1964, the Civil Rights Bill is the law of the land.
Johnson overcame a nearly disastrous potential filibuster in the Senate through his convincing skills, and the landmark piece of legislation banned discriminatory practices in employment and ended segregation in public places. Johnson never wavered in his devotion to the common people. And the next year, he passed the equally important Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965, allowing an unprecedented flow of immigrants from Asia and other traditionally underrepresented parts of the world. Today, America is closer than ever to its original ideals of liberty and freedom for all. I had the chance to interview an immigrant to the United States and asked him what he thought about his life now compared to even 10 years ago.
I feel very grateful for my life here in the United States. I have been here for many years. For over 10 years, I remember that even back then, it wasn't as open as free as People still be hostile to immigrants like me. I mean, with all the movements for freedom that have recently taken place, it's really easy. I mean, the women's march in Washington, the march against Roma, really woke something in people. I am glad America is beginning to realize it. It has achieved the ideas it was founded on. Thank you, and sorry for the bad English.
So it seems like something has changed. America is beginning to come back to its roots of diversity and has made it something more real. Of course, there are others who believe that America is more divided than ever. This is evident in incidents such as Charlottesville, Virginia, and white supremacy movements. Yet we are Americans, now more so than ever. And for this, I am grateful. Stay safe and be proud to be American.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me,